You've probably heard the story of the 47 Rōnin, right? It's usually told as one of Japan's greatest tales of revenge, but honestly, if you look closer, it's so much more than that. It's a deeply sophisticated case study in strategy, leadership, and the incredible power of patience. So today, we're not just retelling a story. We're going to deconstruct it piece by piece and build a timeless playbook for modern strategy.
And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? This is the core dilemma these samurai faced more than 300 years ago, but it's an ethical challenge that leaders are still grappling with today. I mean, think about it. A modern whistleblower has to choose between their loyalty to a company and their duty to the public. It's that exact same fundamental conflict, moral obligation versus the law of the land.
The scale of this is just staggering. We're not talking about a handful of guys. This started with over 300 professional warriors who were stripped of everything, their rank, their income, their entire place in society. And the fact that their response wasn't a knee-jerk reaction, but a meticulously planned 2-year operation, well, that's what elevates this from simple revenge into a masterclass in strategic patience.
Okay, so every great strategy has a starting point, right? A catalyst. Let's dig into the single moment of provocation that kicked off this whole incredible chain of events.
And it all happens with shocking speed. You've got Lord Asano, a young feudal lord who was just relentlessly goaded by a senior court official, Lord Kira. Asano can't take the insults anymore, and he draws his sword, which is a massive taboo inside the shogun's castle. The punishment is immediate and absolute. He's ordered to commit seppuku, ritual suicide, that very same day. His lands are seized, his family line is ended, and his samurai are cast out.
And right here, this is the core injustice that lit the fuse. See, according to the warrior code, both parties in a fight should be held accountable. But the shogun's decision was completely one-sided. Asano loses everything, while Kira, the one who provoked the whole thing, faces zero consequences. For Asano's men, this wasn't just unfair, it was a profound stain on their collective honor, one that they believe could only be cleansed by restoring justice.
So this is where the story shifts from just history to pure, cold-blooded strategy. The Ronin didn't just endure the passage of time, they actively weaponized it. They understood, instinctively, that their greatest advantage wasn't the sword, it was the calendar.
You know, from a risk management perspective, what they pulled off here is just fascinating. An immediate attack would have been a disaster. Kira was on high alert, his security was maxed out. But by waiting, they let him get comfortable, complacent. The long delay also acted like a furnace, It burned away the less committed retainers and forged this absolute, unbreakable cohesion among those who remained. This wasn't passive waiting, it was an active strategy to manage risk and maximize their odds of success.
Their leader, Oishi Kuranosuke, executed this masterful 4-part deception. First, the men just vanished, blending into society as merchants and monks. Then, Oishi himself put on the performance of a lifetime. He acted like a disgraced drunk, spending his time in brothels, so convincingly that Kira's spies eventually wrote him off as a pathetic, harmless has-been. This entire performance was just an act of supreme leadership, controlling the narrative, solidifying his core team, and gathering intel, all under this incredible cloak of deception.
So after nearly 2 years of patient, meticulous planning, the waiting was over. The night of the raid was nothing short of a textbook example of operational precision. Look at this. This was no chaotic mob out for blood. They had a strict protocol. They had clear signals, a drum to attack, a whistle to confirm the target was down. They had an explicit order to spare non-combatants. And then there's that last point, turn themselves in. This is absolutely crucial. Their goal was never to escape. This wasn't a crime, it was a public statement. They were there to make an undeniable point about honor, and they were fully prepared to pay the price.
And this number, this says it all, 0. In a night raid on a fortified mansion, against a force that outnumbered them, they accomplished their mission without a single one of their men being killed. 0 casualties. Now that's not luck. That is the direct, measurable result of 2 years of intelligence gathering and disciplined preparation. It's flawless execution.
The raid itself was a stunning military success, but it created a massive legal and ethical crisis for the government. The Ronin had restored their honor, sure, but they had also openly defied the shogun's law. What happens now?
The shogunate was completely paralyzed. The government literally split in two over this. On one side, you had the legalists, who argued that you have to uphold the law, period. If you allow private vendettas, even justified ones, society descends into chaos. But on the other side, the loyalists argued that these men embodied the highest samurai virtues, the very ideals the regime was built on. How could the state possibly punish its most perfect subjects?
And the whole debate really hinged on this one powerful term, Chushin Gaishi. Now this means way more than just loyal samurai. It implies a kind of righteousness that's almost sacred, suggesting these men were martyrs deserving of worship. For the shogunate, to call them this would be to admit that a moral code could be superior to state law, and that was a direct and very dangerous challenge to their authority.
Ultimately, the shogun's final decision was a brilliant stroke of political compromise. He ordered the Ronin to commit seppuku. This upheld the law. They were sentenced to death for the crime of murder. But by granting them the honor of a samurai's death, instead of executing them like common criminals, he acknowledged their loyalty and their motive. It was a perfect solution that punished the crime while validating the honor behind it.
So why does a 300-year-old story about samurai still resonate so strongly today? Because the strategic principles here are absolutely timeless. So let's translate this incredible piece of history into a modern, actionable playbook.
I mean, look at this. The key players map perfectly onto modern business archetypes. Oishi is the classic turnaround CEO who takes all the public heat while quietly restructuring the company behind the scenes. The 47 Rōnin, they're that elite, mission-driven team, the kind that's forged in the fire of a crisis. And Kira, well, he's the complacent market leader, totally blind to the disruptive startup that's been studying his every move for 2 years.
So from their story, we can distill this incredibly powerful set of principles. First, legacy is the ultimate objective. 2, loyalty isn't a feeling, it's a decision you make before the crisis ever hits. 3, time is an asymmetric weapon. A weaker opponent can use it to wear down a stronger one. 4, the discipline to appear weak when you are actually strong is a massive advantage. And 5, real courage is built on a foundation of deep intelligence. Without a plan, you're not brave, you're just reckless.
And the playbook continues. 6, leaders have to model the sacrifice they ask of their people. 7, the strongest teams are forged in shared adversity. 8, ethics aren't an obstacle, they're a puzzle to be navigated. 9, clear signals and communication are essential for high-stakes execution. And finally, number 10, when the leader is gone, the mission itself becomes the new master. It's the ultimate authority. And all of this leaves us with one final, challenging thought. The Ronin knew, without a doubt, that their mission was more important than their lives, their comfort, or their public reputations. So it really begs the question for any of us in any organization. What's your core principle? What is that honorable mission that you or your team are willing to truly sacrifice for? What is your name that outlasts the life?